Hey friends, it's Michelle. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. So this is going on, and apparently this is the best that we're getting for our historical girls. When I made this video back in February, I told myself that if we didn't get much better outfits for the 18-inch dolls for the 40th anniversary, I would go ahead and make my own modern 18-inch historical girls. So that's what I'm doing. In this video, I'm going to design and create a whole modern outfit for Miss Kirsten, inspired by her as a character and by modern fashion. So let's go. I love Kirsten as a character, and a couple years ago, when we were getting ready to do a cross-country move, she became my comfort character because she knew what it was to leave the only home she had ever known and go somewhere essentially completely foreign to her. Kirsten's stories are so wonderful. It's basically the story of a working class family coming to a new country to have a better life for themselves and their children. But none of that is reflected in the modern Kirsten that was released back in February. So I really wanted to go through her stories and take inspiration from Kirsten as a character and reinterpret her in the modern day. So Kirsten, again, came from a working class family, so maybe nowadays she would thrift her clothes, which is what I did growing up. And her mom was very handy, so maybe her mom would mend things or give her hand-me-downs and tailor them to her, reinforce things with patches, things like that. So that was the sort of thing that I was thinking about as I went into the design process. I also wanted to retain the original red, white, and blue pattern that Pleasant Company did for the first three historical dolls. So that was one of the parameters that I was working with stylistically, was keeping that red, white, and blue color palette for Kirsten. I chose this particular fabric to work with because it reminded me of Kirsten's school outfit, which is my favorite of her outfits. But additionally, it reminded me of one of the skirts that was released for American Girl of Today back in the 90s. And I thought that that was like an interesting nod to Pleasant Company. Also, I wanted to do sort of a 90s aesthetic for Kirsten because in my headcanon, a modern Kirsten would thrift her clothes, and there are a lot of styles that you can find in thrift stores currently that are also being replicated in stores actively because 90s and Y2K aesthetics keep cycling back because of the shorter trend cycle. So I went for a button-down dress, and when I went to look for reference images for this style of dress, which I grew up wearing because my grandmother would make them for me, I saw that they were now being carried brand new in very popular stores. And so I felt right on point with all of this. So once I had completed my design, I got into the pattern making process. I used some old patterns I had already created as a point of reference. So I used the peasant skirt pattern that I created a few weeks ago, along with the corset top, to get an idea of how I wanted the bodice shaped. I made it a little bit oversized and then started cutting out my pattern and then transferred it to a heavier paper that could withstand the pins that I would need to place in order to actually cut out the pattern from the fabric. And this fabric, again, is absolutely gorgeous, but admittedly, it was very difficult to work with because even with the pieces pinned in, the fabric had enough stretch to it that it would wiggle underneath the pattern. So I'm so glad that I got this done, but this fabric was very taxing. I got these buttons at a Daiso back in California years ago, and I was so happy that I hung on to them this entire time. They were the perfect scale for this button-down dress. I went ahead and I placed them about 1.25 inches apart and marked that with my tailor marker, and then went in and actually added Velcro to the inside of the dress. Originally, I had thought about adding snap buttons on the back side of the white buttons so that it would be an easy closure, but I was afraid that those would actually make the front of the dress too tall. So instead, I went with a very, very small scale Velcro underneath those buttons, because I didn't want to have to make button holes yet. Alrighty friends, so let's get Kirsten dressed in the pieces that I've made so far. So here's my Kirsten. I am going to take out her braids now because my modern Kirsten is not going to have her braids on. For some reason, this is the kind of thing that's less intimidating if I'm filming it. I don't know why. So here are her little bands. Okay, there we go. Oh, so pretty. Okay, there she is. Here is the completed dress that I made for her. There's her little dress. Oh my gosh, this is perfect for her. the vest, complete with working pockets. There's her little vest. This is too cute. And her headscarfie. There we go. I want the foof. There she is. I put her headscarf on. Okay. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. She's so stinking cute. So once Kirsten's clothes were done, I needed to get to work on her accessories. I thought the perfect thing for her would be an analog bag. I used some really crisp off-white fabric and then remnants from an old pair of jeans. I wanted this to sort of evoke the feeling of her spoon bag. I decided just to go with her first initial since that's more common nowadays. So in my original design for Kirsten, I was going to give her a bee necklace as a reference to Kirsten's honey in the beehive. Once I got things going, I decided to make it a bag charm. So I got out my Sculpey, I popped him in my office oven. Once he was all done baking, I got out my Artesia acrylic paint pens and used the black one to go ahead and add on his details. The next day I repainted his wings and added some jump rings, and he is a bag charm. And to make everything more polished, I also added lining to the inside of the bag that matches the trim and the pockets on Kirsten's vest. Alrighty friends, so here's my completed modern Kirsten, complete with analog bag. I think the analog bag thing is so funny because I've just always packed everything that way. I grew up always going to Trader Joe's, and this just looks like the Trader Joe's bag that my dad has carried consistently throughout my entire life. So that was what I modeled it after, because that's what I've been seeing being used a lot for the analog bag trend. I'm so happy with her. One of the things that I thought really helped make it feel like Kirsten was using her boots and her amber necklace. So the fact that I was able to work these pieces in while creating a whole new outfit, I feel like really helped transport her from 1754 to the modern day. Again, to kind of walk you through the pieces a little bit, these dresses, it's called a button-down dress. These were very popular in the 90s. My grandmother used to make these for me all the time for church and for teas and things like that. And I've always loved them. There's one that Courtney Cox wore in Friends, I think in season 1, that I just absolutely adored. So I always look for these whenever I go shopping or thrifting or whatever, because I just think they're just phenomenally comfortable. One, they're a nice length so you can really move around, but they're just nice and summery and springy, and they're usually very lightweight, so they're comfortable and easy to wear. But that being said, again, very popular in the 90s, so it felt like something that Kirsten could thrift. And with the little vest, I made this out of remnants from an old pair of jeans, and then just went ahead and added some trim. One, I wanted to reference her quilt and her spoon bag with all of the different patterns and whatnot, but also pattern mixing is very in right now. We did see that with some of the modern girls, like with Addy, they did that, but also they were harkening back to her quilt as well. But I want to include some pattern mixing in Kirsten's design to, you know, give a little nod to that trend currently. And also denim never goes out of style. And like I said earlier, I wanted to keep to the red, white, and blue palette because that was the way that the original 3 dolls were released. They all had a red, white, and blue palette and different levels of saturation. Like I said, her school dress is one of my favorite outfits in her collection. Her baking outfit is my favorite because it looks so Dutch. And yes, I had traditional Dutch garb growing up because my grandmother made sure that I did. She made it for me. But I digress. Her baking outfit, complete with klompen, which is what you would call the shoes, or clogs colloquially. That's so Dutchy to me. So I would love to have that. But that being said, her school dress is one of my favorite outfits, and I wanted to pay homage to that. But I also wanted to keep things brighter and springier, so I went with more of a true red rather than the burgundy of the school dress. So yeah, so those are some of the design choices that I was thinking of when I made this. I also, like I said, crocheted her little headscarf. She has the shawl that she wears with her school dress, but then she does also have a headscarf with her drindle. Drindle, by the way, is not actually a Swedish garb. I believe it's German, but that is not the word that you use, and I don't know the correct one, but just know drindle is incorrect for Swedish. But anyway, from her shawl to her headscarf to her straw hat that she gets in her summer story, I just thought that she needed a little something, but I didn't want to keep her in her braids because if I kept them down, then it would have seemed more Molly, and I just think that she's more of like, I don't know. This girl goes and tries to fight with bears. I don't think she's the type to keep a tight hairstyle unless someone makes her. So I like to think that maybe this is how Kirsten would want to dress herself. And I do feel like this is more reflective of a modern Kirsten with, a working family who, maybe need to make do a little bit with what's available, maybe hand make some things very much the way that I grew up. So yeah, her bag with her little K on it. I did the lining and everything. She has her little bee charm. I didn't go out and buy anything additional, so I had all of these materials already. The only thing I got was the Velcro for her dress. That was it. Everything else I had in the house. And the Velcro, I think, was only like $4. So, and there was a good deal of it. So I will be using that for a while. So I do intend to do some more modern pieces for Kirsten. If there's a particular outfit that you want me to remake in through a modern lens, please let me know. But I'm also going to be doing some modern inspired Kirsten pieces, which will be showing up in my Etsy shop. So please keep an eye out for those. And I have not decided on this yet, but if you would be interested in having this made to order, please let me know down in the comments. I have not decided whether or not I'm actually going to do that yet. This outfit took me about a week to make, so I'm still thinking about it because this fabric, like I said, was rather torturous to work with, but I'm extremely happy with the finished product. So I will be doing Sam next. I have the design planned out. I'm going to be sketching it out tomorrow, but I'm very excited about her outfit. With each girl, I'm trying to, again, interpret the way that they might dress in the modern day based upon their character, their socioeconomic standing, their actual interests and personal tastes, things like that. So I'm really trying to reflect the personalities and story and character of each of the girls through the outfits that I'm creating for them. So I'm very excited to do Sam's. I have a lot of ideas already, kind of had to tailor those down, so to speak. But yeah, so I will be doing this for all of the girls. I do not yet have a Josefina. I've been looking for one for about a year. And whenever I find my Josefina, we will make some modern garb for her as well. And let me know down in the comments what you think would be in Kirsten's analog bag. I have one thing, and it's not analog, but I am certain that Kirsten would pack a Tamagotchi. She is a furry, friend-loving girl like myself, and I always had a Tamagotchi. I still carry Tamagotchis with me. I love them so much, and I feel like Kirsten would absolutely have a Tamagotchi in her bag. So it's a not-so-analog bag. Maybe a little bit of analog, maybe not. But let me know down in the comments what you think Kirsten has in her bag. And also, please, if you folks decide to do this and dress up your own dolls in your own modern historical clothes, please tag me. I want to see your creations. Please tag me over on Instagram. Same name, same handle. I want to see your creations. So let me know. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. By the way, do you like it? I got this for Halloween, used last year, and I never got to wear it because I was editing until it was too late to celebrate Halloween anymore. But anyway, I'm glad I can still wear it for work.